I am Shafiq Ahmad, and today I am doing a seminar on Lucky Jim by Kingsley Amis. In this seminar, I will first give a short introduction to the author, then provide a detailed summary of the story, and finally move on to the main part of my topic, which is how the novel works as a satire on social class, personal aspiration, and the absurdities of modern academic life. First, we talk about the author. Kingsley Amis was a British novelist, poet, and critic. He rose to fame in the 1950s as one of the Angry Young Men, a group of writers who rejected the rigid traditions of English society, particularly the outdated class system and artificiality of academic and cultural life. Amis was known for his humor, irony, and his ability to point out the hypocrisy in social institutions. Throughout his career, he wrote more than 20 novels, but his debut novel, Lucky Jim in 1954, remains his most famous and widely read work. The success of this novel immediately established him as an immortal literary figure. Later, he also won the Booker Prize for The Old Devils in 1986. What makes Amis special is that he brought comedy and satire into post-war English literature, where most writers were focusing on trauma and seriousness. Then, let's talk about the story. The story of Lucky Jim centers on Jim, a young lecturer of medieval history at a provincial English university. Jim comes from a lower middle class background and does not fit comfortably into the academic world. His job feels more like a burden than a calling, and he has little respect for his colleagues or the university system itself. His superior, Professor Welch, is portrayed as absent-minded, pompous, and obsessed with pointless cultural events. Jim is forced to attend boring musical weekends and academic gatherings organized by Welch, even though he secretly despises them. Jim's personal life is equally chaotic. He is stuck in an awkward relationship with Margaret, a neurotic woman who constantly manipulates his emotions. At the same time, he develops feelings for Christine, who is intelligent, straightforward, and represents the possibility of a fresh start. Much of the humor from the novels comes from the Jim's clumsy attempts to balance these relationships while trying not to lose his job. His drunken lecture, where he accidentally mocks the very academic system he is supposed to respect, becomes one of the most famous comic elements in English fiction. Despite all his mistakes, Jim is ironically lucky. By the end of the novel, his honesty and rejection of the presence allows him to escape the full dull university life in Christie's affection and secure a better job in London. Now let's talk about satire in the novel. Satire on social class is one of the strongest targets in the satire in Lucky Jim is in the English system. Jim does not belong to the upper class traditions of the university. He is the son of a simple family and feels constantly out of place in the academic environment that values polished manners, expensive taste, and cultural sophistication. Professor Welch, for example, is now shown as a man who pretends to be cultured by arranging weekend musical events, madrigal singing, and art discussions. But Amis presents him as pompous, clueless, often boring people with long, pointless speeches. Satire lies in showing that people who think themselves are superior are actually ridiculous. Dissent's discomfort at these events represents the frustration of an entire generation of lower middle class people who wanted opportunities but were blocked by old fashioned elitism. The comedy here is not just about Jim being awkward, it is about exposing how meaningless and artificial these rasmagos really are. Now, satire on personal aspiration. The novel also satirizes the way people chase status and success. Many characters are ambitious but in hollow ways. Bertrand, Professor Well's son, tries to act like a serious artist, dressing in a bohemian style and speaking as he belongs to the cultural elite. But in reality, he is shallow, arrogant, and talentless. Margaret, Jim's girlfriend, uses emotional manipulation to hold into him, pretending to be fragile and in need of conscious support. Through such characters, Amis shows how personal aspiration often becomes a performance. People present false versions of themselves to climb on social ladder. Jim, on the other hand, is lazy, careless, and even distracted at times. It is honesty and refusal to flatter authority, ironically making him the more authentic. The satire here is that the people who try hardest to impress and end up as fools, while the one who openly mocks the system eventually succeeds. Now, satire on academia. Perhaps the most biting satire on Lucky Jim is the direction of the academic world. Amis portrays university life as full of absurd traditions, meaningless research, and boring lectures. Dixon himself is a lecturer on medieval history, a subject he has little passion for, and he spends more time trying to avoid work than actually doing it. The novel suggests that academic work had become detached from reality, serving only as a way for people to feel like Welch to feel important. The peak of satire comes in Dixon's public lecture. Nervous and drunk, he abandons his formal academic style and delivers a parody, mocking the very words professors speak. Long, pretentious, and irrelevant. This moment is funny and it also embraces Ami's critics of universities. They have become factories of empty talk rather than places of genuine knowledge. By laughing at them, Amis questioned the real value of such institutions in modern life. On the broader level, The novel satirizes the post-war society of Britain in the 1950s. This was a time where old caste system was still in place, but the younger generation is no longer believed in it. Opportunities were opening for people from humble backgrounds at institutions like university circles and culture clubs were still clinging to old-fashioned ideas of status. Amis uses comedy to show this contradiction. Jim's chaotic life, his drunken mistakes, his attempt to escape boring reduced excited for attention, reflects the frustration of young people who wanted authenticity to fake world of fakery. The absurdity is not just in the university but in society itself, where outdated traditions continued even though they no longer had real meaning. Another point worth noting is that his comic style. His satire is not angry or bitter sense. Instead, it is funny, exaggerated, and full of irony. He uses physical comedy like Jim's drunken faces and clumsy accidents alongside sexual comedy, just long, dull conversations that reveal the existence of the academic world. The mixture makes a satire both entertaining and effective. Unlike traditional satire, they may feel moralistic. Lucky Jim narrate makes readers laugh while also making them question the structures of class and authority. The finally satire of Lucky Jim is part of a larger literary movement. The angry young men of the 1950s were writers and who expressed the anger and disillusionment of the young people in post-war Britain. They mocked the social professions, questioned institutions, and wanted literature to be closer in lay life. Miss Jim Dixon gave us a voice to this content. Satire in Lucky Jim is not only about fun and funny experiences, but also organization within the artificial rules of society. In conclusion, Lucky Jim is also a comic novel, but also a serious critique of his time. Through Jim's struggles, Amy satirizes the class system, mocks false ambitions, and ridicules the potential of academic life. At the same time, he captures the absurdities of modern life and the feeling of generation that wanted freedom from outdated traditions. Kingsley Amis proves that humor can be a powerful weapon of criticism, and that is why Lucky Jim continues to be remembered as one of the greatest radical novels of the 20th century.